Welcome back to the Buzz on Business. Now we have Terri Hradek from Tri-C. Terri, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, as you mentioned, Ken, I'm the new director for the new Brunswick University Center that Tri-C just built here in Brunswick. And we're located actually right on 303, strategically placed right in the parking lot of the high school and next to the rec center. We've got a bunch of neighbors that we're working with on shared parking and a bunch of events that we're working on and opportunities for students. We joke with the public as we're talking to people because we consider ourselves, we've now been named the high-rise of Brunswick since we have 3 stories and you can see us from above. But I actually started my career out of college. I did 10 years in business. I was in sales positions. And in those positions, decided to pursue a master's degree in education. And from there, I've now spent 16 years in higher ed. But in the middle of all that, I decided to start a family. And being the daughter of a workaholic, it wasn't something where I could just stay home and work and be with my kids all day. I was always dabbling in different things. And one of the things that I dabbled in is I owned my own business for 7 years. Franchise business, and I actually was 2 Dairy Queens, and I did that while I was starting my family.
So you made a transition from a franchise owner into higher education. So
I did.
What prompted that?
Well, it's, you know what, when I was in my first 10 years of my sales career, 6 years of that was spent working for a proprietary college. And it was a nice mix for me because it was business and higher ed tied together. And as I mentioned, I was a daughter of a workaholic. My dad was a very smart businessman. And so I've always had that passion for business. And then I uncovered the passion that I had for higher ed and working with students. And so that's what prompted me to go get the master's degree. And then then the business side of me took over, and then I got into the franchise business while I was raising my family. And it was just something that while I was running my own business, I missed the aspect of being in the environment, of being able to help students and help people and give back to the community. So that's how I ended up back in higher ed.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you get into Tri-C?
Well, it started way back when I was going for my master's degree. I actually did an internship for the Dean of Student Affairs at the Western Campus in Parma. And that's where my first experience with Tri-C started. And then after I was running the businesses, we got rid of the businesses, then I went and I worked part-time at Cleveland State University and running their university partnership. And that was just a part-time position, and then I rolled into, a full-time position with Tri-C. And it was an interesting fit because when I accepted the full-time position with Tri-C, I was actually in the community continuing ed division, so I've worked a lot in non-credit as well. Which is a very exciting piece of education because you get to do a lot of neat things. Like I ran dog training classes, I ran cooking classes, I ran language classes. So I had a lot of fun with that. But part of that role was also to work with the college in revamping how they run their off-campus programs. And it was very different how we did it as to how we're doing it today. So I actually revamped the process in terms of how the college does it. And in that revamping, I again took an interest in running extended sites. I was actually part of the initial conversations for this Brunswick campus. Mm-hmm. And I was with the college when we started offering campuses out at the high school. And so it was kind of one of those things that I followed, but I knew that I needed to make the break from non-credit and get onto the credit side. And so I went to work for Cleveland State and ran their campus in Westlake, and then came back to Tri-C when Brunswick opened.
I gotta, over the years you've seen Tri-C just expand, from Corporate College in Westlake, of course the Eastern campuses, and now in Brunswick. So why Brunswick?
Well, Brunswick was one of those areas. I mean, it's my understanding that the city came to us and they were very interested in bringing a higher ed partner into the community. And it wasn't something that we typically would have done because, as you know, Tri-C is in Cuyahoga County. So that was a big jump for us, but the city was very insistent on our presence here in the community. So we started small, and we about 4.5 years ago started out at the high school offering, I think we had like 14 sections of classes that we tested the market with. And we were strictly offering them in the evenings, Monday through Thursday evenings at the high school. Mm-hmm. And I think at that time we had about 140 students in those 14 classes, about an average of 10 students in a class. And it's interesting because we've looked at these numbers as to when we started and when we opened up this spring on January 31st to see how much we've grown. But over the years, we've seen the need increase, the enrollments increase. Not to the extent that we did on January 31st when we opened, but they were steadily increasing, and we were continuing the conversations with the city. And I think the hype was just kind of building, and the word was getting out that we were here. And so the conversations kind of led with the city to, I think we need a more permanent presence here for you, and we need to talk about a building. And so when we opened on January 31st, just this past January 31st for our first spring semester, we opened with over 800 students.
Wow.
Wow.
And so it's been a little crazy.
Yeah.
And so I know one of the things that we may talk about later is where we see ourselves in 3 years. Now that 800 students is just Tri-C classes, and those are just Tri-C students, and we're just getting started and laying, with the university partners. And we've got Tiffin University, who's already on board, and they're going to be starting classes late in March for their bachelor's in criminal justice, and then they'll start their master's in criminal justice in May. But we've got Cleveland State that'll be starting with us in the fall, and we've got room for 6 university partners on campus, that will house there, that can bring programs to the community. So I really see this taking off, not only just the Tri-C piece of it, but the whole university partnership piece is really going to take off, and we're going to be at capacity before we even realize it.
Very good. Terri, thank you for that's great information that you've shared with us today. And that's it for this Tri-C episode. We've got next Renee McCulloch from Homestead Insurance.